Hello everybody, my name's Katrina and today I have a spoiler-free review of Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I was sent an advanced copy from the publisher, so thank you very much Pan Macmillan Australia for sending me a copy of the book. Children of Blood and Bone is a West African inspired fantasy novel. In this world we have different types of magics. We do have the kind of more elemental ones like fire, air, earth and water, as well as other magics like health and disease, life and death, magic over the mind, and those who have the ability to wield magic are called the Magi. In this we follow Zaylee, Amari and Anan. Zaylee is a diviner, so she has the stark white hair and markings of a Magi, but she doesn't have any abilities. And the reason for this is because back when she was younger, the king ruled that magic was to be eradicated, and this involved wiping out all of the people who were able to wield magic, and you're only able to kind of harness your own abilities around adolescence. So when Zaylee was younger, she hadn't yet come into her powers, so she wasn't executed along with all of the other Magi, including her mother. Fast forward about a decade and now Zaylee has the chance to bring magic back, and she gets help from a rogue princess, Amari, and she's trying to outrun the crown prince of Orishan, which is Anan. Where do I even begin with this fantastic book? I think Tomi Adeyemi did a beautiful job of painting this really rich and colourful setting. I felt so immersed in the story from page one. The book does have really short chapters, so it was so easy for me to be like, oh, just one more chapter. And just one more after that, because it only takes a few minutes to read a chapter, and then lo and behold 20 chapters later and you're up into the wee hours of the morning. I thought the book was really well paced. There is a lot of action that keeps you turning the pages, but it is interspersed with a really nice balance of those quiet moments as well. So these opportunities to get to know the characters a little bit more, and as a reader it did feel quite intimate. I just really enjoyed getting to know who these characters were and their histories and observing their development over the course of the book. For me, it was also a good balance between being able to anticipate what could happen next, as well as some more unpredictable things that pop up. But this book is also so much more than an action-packed fantasy adventure. It's about systemic oppression, structural violence, fighting for justice, and allyship as well. And I do want to mention a trigger warning for violence, abuse, torture, and slavery. It can be brutal and violent, and it doesn't shy away from really showing how the oppressive forces treat the Magi. So at times it could be quite confronting, but it was necessary to the truth of the story. Because this book does discuss and critique racist and oppressive structures that also exist in our world, I want to also direct you to some own voices reviews as well. Because these elements are a huge part of the novel, I think it would be beneficial to have a look at some reviews that can accurately comment on the authenticity and representation in the book as well. So I will leave some links in the description below. Continuing on with more of my thoughts on the book, the world building is definitely one of my favorite elements of Children of Blood and Bone. As I mentioned, it is West African inspired, and I loved seeing the Yoruba language and culture in here, which was painted so colourfully through the food and the clothing, the architecture and the religion, which the magic system is very much ingrained in. I've seen a couple of people mention this as well, and I completely agree that the magic system did remind me a little bit of Avatar: The Last Airbender, at least in terms of the elemental magics that we see. In Children of Blood and Bone we do have a more expansive magic system, since there are 10 different Magi clans, but I just really enjoyed that fact because Avatar is one of my favorite things in the world. And now I need to go and rewatch it. Another part of the world that I really enjoyed were the animals that we see in here. So we have the riders, which are these feline creatures that can be companions and people ride them, transport like horses, that type of thing, as well as some other animals as well, which were all based on animals that are native to Africa. So there are lionaires and leopards and cheetahs, hyenas and rhinomes as well. So I just really enjoyed that aspect as well, in that they are based on animals that we know, but they are made more mythical to suit with the fantasy setting. Now moving on to the characters. So this book is written with 3 points of view. As I mentioned, we have Zaylee, Amari and Anan, and I actually went into this book expecting for it to be only from Zaylee's point of view, just because the synopsis is more positioned towards Zaylee, and it very much is her story, but we do get other perspectives in here as well, and that was definitely a pleasant surprise. Like I said, I wasn't expecting it, but I did really enjoy it, and I think that Tomi Adeyemi did a really good job of making sure that they had very distinct narrative voices, so I didn't feel confused when I was reading all of the different perspectives. And I mean, it definitely helps that these characters are very different. The way that they perceive the world is vastly different across across these different characters. They have such different experiences. Firstly, we have Zaylee, who is so fierce and she's so strong even from the start of the story, but she does develop and grow in strength as the story progresses, and more than just physically as well. But she does falter here and there, and she questions and doubts herself along the way, as anyone would in her situation. She's taken on a huge responsibility, and I really admired the fact that she was able to consider different alternatives as well. I thought that really marked her intelligence and ability to empathize with other people. But even with those moments of hesitation and fear, when it matters the most, she does what needs to be done. And then we have Amari, who I think is one of the characters with the most, at least obvious development over the course of the book. Who she is at the beginning is very different from who she is at the end of the book. She moves away from being this really quiet character who sympathizes with the Magi, but she is a princess. She's in this position of privilege and power, and she doesn't really use any of that to help the Magi. And by the end of the book, she's more aware, more confident and strong, and willing to fight for what she believes in and to fight for the Magi. I'd also urge you to take a look at some Own Voices reviews for some responses to Amari and her allyship. I just adore her friendship with Zaylee. There were some really precious moments that made me so happy, and as you guys know, I love my female friendships, so I'm really looking forward to seeing them flourish in the next book. I'm rooting for it, really am, because it kind of went from this hate to love friendship, which I love in romance, but I think I also love it in friendships too. And then we have Anan, who I have very conflicted feelings about. Because we actually get his point of view as a reader, we're kind of in this position of being able to empathize with him. We understand how and why he thinks the way he does, at least towards the start of the novel, but it's not something you necessarily agree with. He also flip-flopped a little bit between what he believes and what he thinks should be done, which was frustrating, but it wasn't entirely believable as well. It just didn't make sense how fast his opinions changed. I wasn't sure about him. He's definitely a fascinating character, but I didn't like the way he was developed towards the middle and the end of the book. I'm going to end by briefly talking about the romances, and I'm not going to go into any detail about who, what, and where, but I will say that one of the romances I'm all for. I love what I'm seeing and can't wait to see if anything goes anywhere in the next book. The other one I do not root for whatsoever. I just think the relationship between the characters is way too complicated. They have a really awful and violent history. Just the things that one of the characters did to the other was mortifying. Just not something I think I could reasonably forgive someone for. So I didn't really believe the romance entirely. Overall, I gave Children of Blood and Bone 5 out of 5 stars. I need the sequel, but we do not have it yet. I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. I really like how the book ended, but I'm also left wanting to know what the hell is happening, and can't do that without another book. So I will be eagerly anticipating the sequel for this book, and I'm probably going to reread Children of Blood and Bone before the sequel comes out as well, because I thoroughly enjoyed it and would love to revisit the world as well. Thank you so much for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you do know of any Own Voices reviews of the book that I can include in the description, please link those down below. But that is all that I have for this video. I will see you very soon with a new one, but until then, I will talk to you in the comments. Bye!